What if Italy joined the Allies before the World War II? Would the war still happen or would it be prevented? This question will be answered in this video. Well, firstly, I should tell you how Italy could be allied to Britain and France before 1943. Italy was allied to Britain and France before that time. In the year 1935, Germany declared that it wants to increase the size of its army 5 times and build up an air force. Both of these actions were prohibited by the Versailles Treaty. Britain, France and Italy reacted on these German actions by calling the Stressa Conference. This conference took place in Italian town Stressa. France, Britain and Italy agreed on this conference that Austria should remain independent and that they should resist any other changes of the Versailles Treaty by Germany. But as you can know from history, this alliance did not last. Its fall began just a few months after the conference in Stressa. Britain signed the Anglo-German Naval Agreement, which gave Germany permission to increase the size of its navy. Because of the formation of Stressa Front, Italy thought that they could invade Ethiopia. But this enraged France and Britain, who put limited sanctions on Italy. They also tried to appease Italy by giving them vast parts of Ethiopian land, but this ultimately failed. The Stressa Front completely collapsed in year 1936, when Italy and Germany signed the Rome-Berlin Axis. But what if the Stressa Front does not fail? For this, several changes need to be made. Firstly, Anglo-German Naval Agreement is not signed. Second, and the largest change, is that Italy is successfully appeased by Britain and France, obtaining parts of Ethiopia. This would mean that Germany has to look for allies elsewhere. This natural ally is Hungary. The Hungarians want the same thing as Germans. They want to restore their borders. Germans might also around this time try the Anschluss, but they would fail. France, Britain and Italy would mobilize their armies and threaten Germany with a war if they try to take Austria. This would leave Germany isolated. As I said earlier, they would ally Hungary, but someone from Germany would for sure understand that their biggest chance for expansion is the Soviet Union, not attacking it, but allying it. I am not sure if we see the Berlin-Moscow axis, but some form of Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact is possible, carving up Eastern Europe between Germany and the Soviets. This would mean that Germany would need to do the same thing as I am doing for a living. Gamble. Wait, what? Who writes the script? That's so untrue. They would either wait and do nothing, and we know the Nazis, so this would not happen, or try something which might work. Germany would for sure break the Treaty of Versailles, and they would rearm, from beginning quietly and slowly, but later much less quietly and fast. But even after the Stressa Front learns, it would not lead to the invasion of Germany. Even though the Versailles Treaty is clearly violated, this is something different than threatening country a war. We can expect that the East would be carved up similarly to our history. The Soviet Union would get the Baltics, Poland would be divided between Germans and the Soviets, and Soviet Union would gain Bessarabia. Around the year 1939, Germans would demand Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia, but they would be stopped by the Stressa Front again. Here I will divide the scenario into two. In one, Germany and Soviet Union became full allies, and in the second, Germany and the Soviets will not be allies. If Germany and Soviet Union became allies, they would invade Poland together. This would happen later than in our history, around the year 1940. Even though Germany is weaker, then in our reality, Poland could not last the strength of Soviet Union and Germany combined, so their fall would be quicker. The Stressa front would be activated, so Britain, France and Italy would declare war on Germany. I would expect that the Germans would declare war on Czechoslovakia and Austria, so they can be sure that these countries won't invade them while they are in France. They would manage to defeat Czechoslovakia and Austria, with the front getting stuck on Alps, but this would take a lot of time and help from the Soviets. France would meanwhile occupy part of the Rhineland. Romania would be divided as in our timeline, and the Soviets would also attack Finland, failing miserably. Germany would around the year 1942 try to invade Benelux, but they would fail. The war would be stuck, just like the First World War, but they would be supplied by the Soviets. Japan would also strike Pacific colonies during this time, bringing the USA into the war. Around the year 1944, the Germans would begin to understand that they can't win the war in a long term. German High Command would coup the government and try to leave the war. They would make a deal with the Allies that they will keep territory that they lost to Poland in the First World War for fighting back the Soviets with the Allies. They would also need to liberate Czechoslovakia and Austria, which would hurt them, and after the war with the Soviets, conditionally surrender. The Soviet Union would disintegrate upon the force of its enemies and fall around the year 1946, with many countries liberated and gaining independence, like Ukraine, Belarus, etc. Poland would also obtain more territory in the east as compensation. The war would end, but it would be much more deadlier than in our history, and almost everyone in Europe would hate Germany. But what if the Soviets and the Germans would not ally? The Germans would still be capable of defeating Poland, but alone they would have little chance to fight France, Britain and Italy. They would be unable to defeat them. Czechoslovakia and Austria would most probably join the Stressa front. Now Germany would be doomed. The war would end around the year 1942, with Germany being fully occupied. After the war, it would be divided. Austria would gain South German states, Poland would get Pomerania, East Prussia, and together with Czechoslovakia, it would carve up Silesia. France would get Saarland, and the rest of Germany would be dissolved. The Soviets would meanwhile grab the Baltics and Bessarabia, starting an interesting Cold War. This is all, but don't leave just yet, because I have here a random fact for you. Did you know that Benito Mussolini was proclaimed as the protector of Arabs? In conquered Libya, he wielded the sword of Islam given to him in Libya and called the Libyans Muslim Italians. This is all. If you like this video, you can give like, subscribe, and join my Discord server. Link is in description. I will see you at the next video. Salvete.